The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Good morning, CHD. It's Pediatric Perspectives, and this is a change. I am interviewing Dr. Paul Thomas. I've hijacked your show.
I'm confused. I'm Dr. Paul, your host of Pediatric Perspectives, where we look at children's health challenges from a different perspective, one that includes critical thinking. But sadly, I'm at your mercy.
Well, yes, because we're together. We're actually in the same room. We're not live on Zoom. We are actually filming together, which is a different experience. So it's good. So we thought we'd take this opportunity, and I would be asking Dr. Paul Thomas the questions because I have a list of questions from young mums. And so, are you ready?
Let's go.
And so, my first thing I'm going to ask you is, how long have you been a pediatrician for?
So I'm retired, but I was a pediatrician for 35 years.
So it's 35 years of experience being a pediatrician.
Yes. I would add to that my experience was rather unique because I was, first of all, teaching residents and medical students, and then I pivoted into private practice for economic reasons. I had a ton of debt from medical school, and it wasn't cutting it in the teaching world. And in that, it was a group practice with 4 other pediatricians. So it was mainstream, the CDC vaccine schedule, lots of antibiotics, tons of sick kids. And then I pivoted into my own practice, actually after they kicked me out, because I kind of woke up when I saw 4 kids in a row over 4 years regress into severe autism after vaccines. Like, okay, I'm done, business as usual. They said, sorry, if you don't follow the CDC schedule, that's not ethical. And so I was ousted for that reason. Started integrative pediatrics and was on my own, and that just exploded. There are so many families, and just more and more every year, wanting a pediatrician who's going to listen to them, answer their concerns, especially around vaccines, and not force them to do things they don't feel comfortable doing.
It's really hard for the parents out there to find a pediatrician that's completely like you.
Very hard indeed. And what was unique about my practice was we were still taking insurance. So if you're an integrative or alternative pediatrician and you're really trying to do the right thing for your kids, give parents that freedom not to vaccinate if they don't want to, offer them holistic approaches to whatever does come up as opposed to just pharmaceutical solutions. It's hard to make ends meet if you're on a insurance model, right? And you basically will get boosted off of a lot of insurance plans if you're not following the CDC.
A lot of the questions that have come in for this show today that I've just asked around in these young mummy groups, and they've asked around and we've got these questions in, is actually from the unvaccinated group. So, and just so you know, that group is growing bigger and bigger every single day.
Yes.
I mean, I would go as far as to say millions of young kids in America today are unvaccinated, vaccine-free.
Yes, and I couldn't agree more. That's what I saw before I retired a couple years ago, is the percentage of parents choosing not to vaccinate at all was just growing and growing and growing. As I like to say, that genie is out of the bottle and we're not putting it back in. Once you know, you can't unknow, right? And in my case, once I saw vaccine injury, I couldn't unsee it. And so you're in this position, you're either going to go against morality and ethics and push something that you know is hurting children. Sorry, I can't do that. So people say, well, how could you do that? You know, because it's hard on a career economically. It's like, no, when you know better, you do better. I'm sorry.
That's right. Well, let's just set the scene a little bit, because we know we have some unfriendly journalists that do watch CHD TV on a regular basis. So just before we get into the unvaccinated children and the parents' questions, nobody, and I mean nobody, in our team at Children's Health Defense and Dr. Paul Thomas's team has ever said that unvaccinated children will not get sick, will not catch a cold, will not catch measles, will not catch any of these things. No one's ever said that. We would just rather take our chances, if you like, which is ridiculous. We know how healthy the unvaccinated. We don't want the vaccines, okay, because they're killing and maiming children. So they do let's just get that one clear. Unvaccinated children can and do get sick like a normal child back in my day would do.
They can. What I saw in my practice in the rural world was as more and more kids were unvaccinated, I had fewer and fewer sick visits. I mean, it got so bad in that regard economically as a business. I'm going, oh, is this model going to work? Because the pediatric practice thrives on well child care, which a lot of your money comes from vaccines, and sick kids, because those are quick visits. So it's quick turnaround, big money relative to the time spent. So I'm losing, kids aren't sick anymore, so I'm losing income there. And on the other side, they're not vaccinating anymore, so I'm losing huge money there. It was like, I don't think this is sustainable. I would go into rooms, do my education on a well child visit, for example, and parents would choose not to vaccinate. If you're given the right information, most parents can make a good decision. Mm-hmm. And I'd walk out and think to myself, well, just lost a whole bunch more money. But that didn't stop me.
Well, thank you for that. The unvaccinated questions coming in, and the crux of this is coming from, is that most of these parents with these beautifully healthy children are thinking, what if? So what if my child got whooping cough? What if my child got measles? Because they don't want to go to mainstream doctors or hospitals because of how unvaccinated children are treated,
yes.
Which is awful.
Yes. That is a real thing.
Right.
So I've had patients of my own, heard some horror stories of, going to the ER and just being treated with almost abusively because the hospital personnel will treat a parent who's not vaccinating as if they're a bad parent. I mean, you hear stories around the country of Child Protective Services being called, which is scary. Yeah. I haven't personally seen that in my practice, but yeah, it's not friendly in most hospitals for families who aren't vaccinating. And so what do? Well, it's very, very rare that a child needs to go to the hospital, okay? That's what I did in a pediatric practice is I actually had an urgent care of my own. So if your kid was sick in the evenings or weekends, we would actually see those kids ourselves so they don't have to go to other urgent cares or emergency rooms. But I can tell you, now I've turned in my license. I'm not licensed, I don't diagnose or treat, but I can coach, and I know other options that are online for parents who maybe their kid is sick enough they do need some input from somebody else. So if you haven't found, first of all, find a good integrative pediatrician or a pediatrician that will support you. Because if you have established care, and how do you do that? Well, ask around. You might have friends in your town. I mean, you're in Austin, Texas, right? So somebody could probably ask you, do you know of anybody in Austin, Texas? And you might. But if you don't, I would draw a circle around where I live, say 20 miles or something, and call every practice. And I would just call and say, hey, we're looking for a new pediatric practice, and we want to know if you have any pediatricians that will support families who don't vaccinate. See what they say. 9 out of 10 will say we don't take those families. But that 1 out of 10, that's your spot. And then go see if you can make rapport with that pediatrician. Now you've got your backup for if you ever did need to be in the hospital, you have a pediatrician who will have your back, so to speak. But really, you can take care of almost everything at home.
And also stay away from mummy groups that are just full of fear. There are some people in this world that live off drama and fear. And that can bounce on to you, even though you're together, you've got your unvaccinated child, and you're reading these mummy groups and people are saying, I had to rush my child to hospital, my child nearly died, and all this kind of stuff.
Vaccinated kids. So I haven't done mommy groups, but you bring up an interesting point. If you can find a group of your peers, so mommy groups if you will, or parent groups where they are open to not vaccinating, that's your tribe. Especially if there are a lot of families who aren't vaccinating. There are more and more out there, and they are very supportive of one another because, again, as what happened for me, when you see and you know what you didn't know before, you can't unknow it. This is what's going on for these mommy groups. Their kids are so healthy. And so no matter what happens to a child for illness, I mean, unvaccinated kids can get sick. They generally don't get as sick, and they generally get better a lot faster. But they truly don't get ill nearly as often. That was something I witnessed in my practice. And you can get support from that, but you can also get support from providers who deal with this and know what to do.
Some of these questions are coming from parents who are on, say, their third or fourth child, and their older children are coming back from school bringing yucky things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a different situation from the young mum who wrote in with just on her first baby.
Yes.
So that's another subject we'll talk about that. But let's talk about whooping cough, because this is what this particular person asked me to speak to you about.
Yes.
So her child does not have whooping cough, but she's worried about
it.
Because whooping cough is everywhere in America right now, is it not? It's rampant, apparently.
Yeah, this will probably go down as one of the worst years in decades for whooping cough. It's not because of the unvaxxed.
And it's not because of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
No, it is not for that reason. It is because the vaccine is failing terribly. It just is a very ineffective vaccine. In fact, if you've had the acellular Tdap or DTaP, which is what we've had for the last couple decades at least, you are more likely to get whooping cough multiple times in your life than a person who hasn't had that vaccine and just got natural immunity. So if you get natural immunity, that means you got whooping cough. Oh no. Well, whooping cough after age 6, 12 months rarely kills. Very rarely. I mean, we have 1 to 4 deaths per year, I think, on average in America from whooping cough. This is, 40 million?
And is that because they haven't treated it properly?
It's treatable, and they absolutely have not treated it properly. You don't have to die from whooping cough. The vaccine is killing way more than 1 to 4 kids. And so this year being a really bad year, there may be a few more than that, actual deaths from whooping cough, but they will be in vaccinated and unvaccinated. Probably more likely to be in the vaccinated. It's such a vaccine failure thing.
And when you say unvaccinated, remember what they call unvaccinated, and that'll be what their opinion of whether that child is up to date on the vaccine. So therefore, the child is unvaccinated.
Yeah, well, that's a subtlety that is tricky in just how things are reported. They sure played that card with COVID, right?
Right.
They were all unvaccinated unless you were up to date. You had to wait for 14 days after the shot before you could say it was the shot that did it.
Like
so
that.
if you, and we have the data showing most COVID deaths happen on day 0. You get the shot, you die.
Yeah.
That's not a shot death because it didn't. It's just nuts.
It is nuts, and that's why. But I want to bring this up because I do want people to not be afraid. A lot of the fear is coming because Louisiana, they're writing, 3 baby deaths. We don't have any information on those babies yet. I honestly don't even know if they exist. And I'm saying that because our science department are doing what they do best, and we're not coming up with the ages, all of the things that we normally catch, like we did with the measles. We're not getting that. You cannot trust mainstream media at all.
Yeah.
They're still saying those 2 girls died of measles when we know that they didn't. So not to be trusted at all.
Yeah.
So again, they're playing the fear thing.
Yeah, so I would say on whooping cough, you probably did an amazing episode recently on CHD TV with Suzanne Humphreys. If you're watching this and you want to know how to manage whooping cough and whether or not you should worry about it, watch that episode. Both of you were brilliant. It is not something you need to worry about and is more concerning for the vaccinated than the unvaccinated. But then she also goes over how you treat it. She's got a website where the protocol is there for the high-dose vitamin C, and your kid will get through it. I had in my career, in 35 years of pediatrics, we had one bad year. I think it was 2014, where that was sort of like what's happening this year. And because I had unvaccinated kids in my practice, I was extremely cautious. I didn't want to lose my license because I was that pediatrician who had a patient die of a vaccine preventable disease. It's vaccine potentially preventable, but anyway. So anytime I had a bad cough or a chronic cough in a kid, I would actually send a swab, PCR, sure, but also an actual culture for backup. So I was making sure I picked up any possible whooping cough. We had 20 cases in my practice that year. 15 of them were fully up to date, because remember, my vaccine-friendly plan at that time had the whooping cough, the DTaP, on schedule. So the other 5 were all in one family. So it was an unvaxxed family, and sure, it's going to go through the family. It's contagious. And they had an infant who was 7 months old. They all did fine, even the 7-month-old. And at that point, I just did vitamin C and azithromycin. And some people choose not to do the azithromycin. That's what I was doing, and it's a reasonable thing to do. So it wasn't even scary for the infant that got whooping cough. But that's a busy practice. I had 15,000 active patients, and that was a bad year.
So the advice really is to, first of all, don't panic if your child has whooping cough. We were on the phone earlier today, we're not going to mention who with, and he was like, is that your child coughing? And that person said yes, and you went,
oh,
I think you might have whooping cough.
Yeah, so that mom was calling, a friend calling because their child had some vomiting going on. And so I thought, oh, well, I need more information. Let's chat. And I'm not diagnosing or treating. I'm just coaching. And I hear this cough in the background. It's like, So is that vomit happening associated with a cough? Yes, sometimes, usually. It's like, oh, cough, 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 choke, gag, throw up. That's whooping cough. And the way the cough sounded, I mean, it doesn't, coughs are not specific necessarily. Like croup has a sound, which could be pertussis, whooping cough. Okay. But if you have that cough, 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 gag, choke, vomit, that's probably whooping cough, especially the way that one sounded. So anyway, it's out there. You don't need to be afraid of it. Most people don't even need to go to the doctor to manage it. You can actually do some alternative things as well with a nebulizer. And I've had great success doing that as well. When I was in practice, I would say, people could use colloidal silver, nebulized, interestingly enough. That worked for RSV too, which is a different cough.
Yeah. Interesting. So let's just talk now about the DTaP, because people are thinking, well, I'm far too scared, people are dying, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go and take the DTaP. Let's just go into detail on that a bit, because I cannot tell you, and know that our viewers know this, how many deaths, SIDS deaths following DTaP. How many? I mean, it's so dangerous. And you're saying you've got more of a chance of dying from a DTaP than from whooping cough.
You are far more likely to die from the vaccine, the Tdap, than you are from whooping cough. So, our parents are afraid that you don't want your baby to die. And you hear these stories that babies are dying from whooping cough. That sounds horrible. And if there's a vaccine that could prevent that, why wouldn't you do that, right? That's the logic. But then you've got to look at the flip side. Well, how safe is that vaccine, and how likely are you to die if you get the vaccine? Oh, 3 times, 7 times more likely, somewhere in that range, I believe. No, thank you, right? I don't want to kill my baby when I can actually treat and manage their whooping cough, especially when whooping cough rarely kills anymore.
Okay, let's talk about this. I know Suzanne and I talked about it as well, but I just want to hear yours. So, and I know that you're pediatricians, you teach children, but for those people out there, those grannies like me, when your child calls, which my child would never do, my children would never do this, but if they call you and say, you cannot come and see the newborn baby unless you take the Tdap.
Good question.
To protect that newborn baby.
Yeah. So that's called cocooning. And about 15, 20 years ago, a couple studies, one was out of Australia, had some data that suggested if you give granny and the caregivers and even the parents around that newborn or that infant the Tdap or the shot for pertussis, then they won't bring pertussis to the baby, since it's the babies who are most vulnerable. It kind of made sense. Problem is, we now know that if you get the Tdap or DTaP, you are more likely to get infected with whooping cough and bring it to the baby. Way more likely. So the chances of your baby getting infected by a vaccinated person are much higher than they are from an unvaccinated person. There's a couple different reasons for it, but the data is clear. So no, don't make granny get the shot or the caregivers, and you shouldn't take it yourself, because not only are you more likely to catch whooping cough and bring it home to your baby, but you yourself could be harmed from that shot.
Right, you could die. Granny could die if granny takes the Tdap to protect her grandchild.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, I mean, granny might risk it if it was truly a huge benefit. Grannies will do anything for their grandkids. But there's no benefit. It's actually increased risk to you and the baby.
To summarise up whooping cough and the vaccine, you don't want to be taking the vaccine because you could die. We've established that. And you're probably going to be okay with whooping cough. And if you're not, there are people that can help you.
Absolutely. And check out that episode you did with Suzanne Humphreys. It's masterpiece.
And now let's talk about Tylenol for a second. And the reason why I want to do this is because an unvaccinated mother, as in the mother of an unvaccinated child, said that she is petrified that her child will have a seizure. So every time that child spikes a temperature, she gives it Tylenol, Motrin.
And it's an unvaccinated child?
It's an unvaccinated child. But she just has this fear that it's going to have a seizure.
Yeah. So pediatricians have been the worst on Tylenol. We would recommend get Tylenol before the shots, and then definitely 4 hours later, give it after the shots and as needed every 4 hours to prevent high fevers and seizures. Well, there couldn't be anything worse you could do, because Tylenol blocks the creation of glutathione from N-acetylcysteine in our bodies. Glutathione is your major detox molecule and major antioxidant. It is exactly what you need when you're sick, and it's exactly what you need to get rid of toxins like what's in a vaccine. So you inject the toxins, and then you give a product that's going to prevent that child, that baby, from getting rid of the toxins, so you're magnifying the toxicity. Tylenol, acetaminophen, paracetamol if you're in Europe, it is a massive increase of all toxins. So in my practice, every patient, whether they were vaccinating or not, was told, get Tylenol out of your house, period. Nobody should be using it, period.
Okay, so what about, this person said to me, what about, so forget the fever thing, because as Dr. Suzanne says, it's actually quite good for your child to have a fever.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, okay.
Fever is good. Fever means your immune system's working. If your fever gets over 103 or 104, babies start getting lethargic and
their eyes can roll back.
and super irritable. At that point, you need to get the fever down. And the way you do it is you get a wet washcloth and you put it all over the skin and allow that water to evaporate. The body's hot. You've got a fever. Whew, it evaporates and boom, the fever goes down. I mean, you can do, there's some home remedies with turmeric and different things you can do, but not Tylenol. And you're not at risk of harm from a fever until it's over 105. So,
all right, what about teething? Because this person said, they can't bear to see their child in so much pain when they're teething. So they're not going to give Tylenol, they said. They don't want to rub that gel on that's apparently bad for you now.
Yeah.
I don't know, I used to rub it all over my kids' gums. I don't know any better.
Yeah. So most babies that are teething, and here's the thing, some babies are teething for months, right? They start gnawing and anything they can get in their mouth because it hurts, and you'll see them do this for months and months. Well, think about it. You've got new teeth coming in for 2 years. The worst thing you could possibly do is constantly be giving Tylenol for teething. So a cold teething something, and they just let them gnaw on it, that coolness, and then something to bite on usually will help. If you're breastfeeding, most teething babies will calm. That's a calming thing, and it's helpful. You can do homeopathic teething things. I know they're safe. The effectiveness, I've heard stories both ways.
All the mainstream media, all the trolls, all the baddies, all the dark side, they are all saying all these diseases are going to come back and they're going to kill all the unvaccinated children. So, should people be afraid of the illnesses, the mild childhood illnesses as they were called in my day? Should they be afraid?
Well, the short answer is no. You do not need to be afraid. But let me just pivot, y'all. Let's quickly talk about the vaccines that kids are exposed to. First of all, in pregnancy, nonsense to vaccinate at all in pregnancy. I mean, they've got the Tdap, the flu, the COVID, they've added RSV. It's insane to activate the immune system while you're pregnant. We know that triggers problems like miscarriage for sure, autism, neurodevelopmental stuff, schizophrenia. I mean, there's plenty of studies. So please, trust your mommy intuition. You've got a precious cargo, and don't vaccinate while you're pregnant. Now, newborn, Hep B. Thankfully, the ACIP committee just said no newborn dose of Hep B, but honestly, you only need Hep B if you're sexually active or using dirty needles, and you don't need to worry about that until at least you're a teenager. I would never get the Hep B personally, ever. It's a very dangerous vaccine. The amount of aluminum, the type of aluminum, not good.
They're wheeling out all the oldies. Deborah Birx, Rochelle Walensky, the ex-CDC director, they're wheeling them all out, putting them on the headlines saying that if you pregnant mothers don't get vaccinated, your baby's going to die. Do not listen to these people. They're paid by Big Pharma.
Yeah, it's absolute ridiculous nonsense. And the Hep B's always been nonsense and ridiculous. It's all toxicity, no benefit. Go to the 2-month visit. Diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, the DTaP. There's no diphtheria in America. It's gone. 1 case in the entire country every few years. Tetanus, there hasn't been a death of a child, any child, up to the age of 18 in a couple decades. It's just a nothing. If you get a really bad, dirty wound that cannot be cleaned, yes, go get a tetanus immune globulin shot at least. But you don't need to worry about it, and it's treatable. Pertussis, we just covered it, but basically you're at much higher risk of harm by getting the vaccine. It doesn't give lasting protection, and it can cause harm. Move on to the Hib. So go to 2 months, you also got the Hib, Haemophilus influenza type B. Used to cause epiglottitis, meningitis, sepsis back in the 80s. I was in the hospitals in training when it was a big deal. It's gone, folks. There's only a few cases, 10, 20, 30, 40 per year. I'm not talking deaths, just cases in the entire country. All the Hib disease now, 600 to 800 cases, is different types that aren't covered by the vaccine. It's the wrong vaccine. It's not necessary. Prevnar, which covers pneumococcus. There are some deaths of children from pneumococcus, but it's the same story with pertussis. You're much more likely to die from that vaccine than you are from the pneumococcal infection, which is treatable. So we're just talking a handful, maximum 10, 20 per year. This is the tricky part. I don't want to lose my child to anything that might be preventable, right? So parents want to do it, but you got to weigh the other side of the equation. If that vaccine is more dangerous than the disease.
Oh, I can hear the trolls right now saying, the reason why there's no tetanus is because of the vaccine. The reason why there's no is because of the vaccine. Look, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. All I know is I've seen so many deaths from these vaccines. We are not going to risk our children taking a vaccine that could and can kill so many children, or brain injury like my son, or paralyzed from the waist down like Josh Coleman's son.
Yeah.
The list goes onwards. We're not going to take the risk. So don't be screaming that at us. Well, we're not.
And we now know, like you said, there's millions of kids who are unvaccinated. If tetanus was so dangerous, they'd be dying. They're not. They're not dying.
Dissolving illusions, and you'll just get it all from there. Read Vax Facts.
Yeah.
This Vax Facts you have got to order for all those young mums, even if you don't know. If you spot a pregnant woman over the road, watch how she goes in, order it, and deliver it in her door. You could be saving a life. Because it's easy to read.
It's an easy to read book.
Yeah.
I'm actually really happy with that book. It was necessary because of my previous book, The Vaccine Friendly Plan, which might encourage you to do some. We now have way more information, and it's all in that book, Vax Facts. So I do encourage you to get it. Sorry to be.
But where can they get it from? Not
anywhere.
Amazon.
It's at
but if
all
you don't
bookstores.
Like Amazon,
you can go to vaxfactsbook.com, and that supports me even more. But it's available in any bookstore. They may have to order it because. Bookstores will order a few books when it's new, which is this one just came out in 2025. But if they don't move, they won't order any more unless somebody wants it.
And let's just clear up another troll question. So when you were a pediatrician vaccinating loads of people, did you make more money then or now that you've written a book?
Well, if your goal is making money, I was making money when I was vaccinating, like crazy. I have forfeited millions, and that's not an exaggeration, by choosing to go ahead and speak the truth as I saw it, and risking and then sacrificing my license for the cause, if you will. I'm actually one of the few authors blessed enough that I am making a little bit of money now. But you need a bestseller. I'm nowhere like that.
It is a little bit of money, trust me.
Yeah,
people.
it's a fraction. It's a fraction.
So you've sacrificed so much. So I just want to thank you.
Well, no, thank you. If you're doing the wrong thing, I don't know how you live with yourself.
Right.
And I know pediatricians are not bad people, and they're not doing the wrong thing on purpose. They've just got blinders on. They will not look at the issue in a way where they can take off those blinders and go, oh, because once you do, you're... Can I say you're screwed on this show?
Yeah, you can say that. And also it's bravery, isn't it? It's having the courage to stand up and do the right thing. Yeah. And a lot of people are afraid of that.
A lot of people might afraid. Say. I had a lot of pediatricians thank me. They say, we're with you, but if we just can't sacrifice our career, or we don't want to risk our career.
The biggest one is not until my children have finished college or until
I'm slightly guilty of that. When I wrote the Vaccine Friendly Plan, I had a house full of kids because I had 3 biological and 6 adopted. And I was barely making ends meet then with my very successful practice. And I'm thinking, I'm done. If I come out with a don't do any vaccines, I'm toast.
Is that when I met you and we went head to head?
Yeah, probably.
I called him out, don't worry, people.
But it's what a blessing to know what you're doing is right and to have no doubt about it. And it's just great. I'm happy with my life, but it's not for financial reasons. That's for sure.
He's not making any money, basically.
No.
So when you buy the book from the site, what was that site again?
Oh, thevaccinebook.com.
Then you are actually helping him out.
Then you can
put
help
food
him.
on the table. All right, so listen, people, thank you for listening. It was really fun doing this, by the way,
Yeah.
especially to be in person as well. We're going to do this once a month. We won't be in person once a month. It just happens that he's here. I can't tell you why he's here, but except for to say, very exciting news for 2026.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you're here.
Absolutely.
Okay, but once a month, I will be interviewing Dr. Paul Thomas, and so write your questions into us, what you want me to ask him. Remember, he can't give medical advice, but he can give coaching advice, whatever that means. He can do that. So write into stories@chd.tv, write your questions for Dr. Paul Thomas, and I will ask him them. So we'll do that, and it's been fun. So I don't know how you normally close your show.
I just thank people for watching and remind you that I do coach at kidsfirstforever.com. Do get Vax Facts. That book is amazing, and I can't wait to be with you again next week.
We're live. So tell everyone your name, please.
My name is Pam Kavanaugh.
And you took 2 Modernas.
I did.
So first question is, why did you take a COVID shot?
I was very much against doing it. I didn't believe that it could be safe in that short amount of time. So I was the last one in our building at work to do it. And then Fauci came out and said you didn't have to wear a mask anymore.
If you got the shot,
If you
didn't
got the
have to wear a
shot.
mask.
Yeah.
And your work wanted you to have it? You had to have it?
It wasn't mandatory yet at that point.
No, it wasn't.
No, the only reason I did it at that point was so I didn't have to wear the mask anymore.
Okay, so you took your first Moderna. How did you feel after that?
I was okay after the first one. Looking back, I don't know that I had any real symptoms. It was after the second one.
Okay, what happened after the second?
I had left work and went to go get my second shot, and by the time I got back, I was completely exhausted. And I was
So you had the shot, and then you were walking back, and you were exhausted.
Yeah, I drove back, maybe 10-minute drive. And when I got back, I said, man, I can't keep my eyes open. Can it happen this quickly? And they were like, yeah, the fatigue is real from that. It can give you a little bit of a cold afterwards. So I was like, man, okay. So then the next 10 days, it was chest pain, shortness of breath, headaches. The fatigue is like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. And so after day 10 of experiencing all that, I went ahead and called my doctor because that was, the protocol to wait 10 days. So I did, and he said, I would like you to come into the walk-in clinic. I can't see you today myself, but I'm going to give the story to, the walk-in clinic doctor. So I did, and she informed me that it was my hormones.
Hormones?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, I went with that. I was like, I don't really think so, but hormones, okay. And then over the next
Did they give
3
you
weeks,
anything for your
absolutely
hormones?
not. Nope. No, she recommended me to go back to my primary care to get blood work done for levels.
Okay.
And then over the next couple weeks, every single day, I was getting new symptoms. And the ones that I'd had previously were getting worse. And so by the end of week 3, my joint pain, I couldn't even have a sheet on my body. It was
anything that touched your body?
so horrific.
What was it like, burning?
So on the joints, the only way that I can really explain it, a vice grip being clamped on and just tightened all the way, and it was on every single joint, my little toe knuckles, everything. I started looking for Washington State's Right to Die.
Really?
I did.
That's
yeah,
awful.
early on. I'd gone to my doctor, and he had said, and I'd been with him for 10 years, and he said, I'm going to need to refer you to neurology. You have all the signs of MS. And at that point I was like, oh, it's MS, you know. I didn't know anything about that till I got home and was reading, and I was like, that sounds horrific. No, if this is my new life, I'm going to look into the right to die, because I can't live like that. The pain was like nothing I've ever experienced in my life.
And you talk about the nerve pain as well.
That came a little bit later, the nerve pain. I also got a frozen shoulder.
Okay, so before we go on, how far did you get down the right to die?
MS does not qualify for right to die. So
Well, I'm glad you didn't go any further with that.
I mean, I would have, gone through and got a final diagnosis and all that. But in the moment when you're in that kind of pain, you're looking for a way out. 100%. It's horrible. It's horrible. To say I was suicidal, it was twice during that time frame of before I found my natural path.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you had a frozen shoulder. You want to
So I had a frozen shoulder, and then I started getting nerve pain down both arms, from my shoulders all the way down to my fingertips.
And what does that feel like?
Fire, like burning, and somebody taking one of those old wire rakes and just dragging it down your skin. And it was on both arms. And for me, that was the most painful of my symptoms, was the nerve pain in my arms. I still do have some of that, and I do have some of my joint pain still, but at one point that was the roughest time in the whole thing, was those 4 weeks of 24/7 nerve pain and joint pain together. And I would go to work and hide the pain. And then when people would, leave my work area, I would go, oh God. And then I'd start rubbing my fingers and my hands and my joints. And then I'd go into the bathroom and put run hot water under my arms. And then I'd put a smile back on my face and walk back out. And
were you on painkillers?
No, I don't. I'm terrified of those. Yeah, I'm so afraid that I've met so many people that had like a simple back injury or dental pain that have become hooked on.
Yeah.
So I refused any kind of narcotics.
All right, so you went and found a naturopath.
I did not find him until about 2 years into it, but yes, went to a naturopath. I believe it was somebody in one of our support groups that guided me to him. So
And it's changed your life?
Tremendously.
Good.
Yeah. He got me on a couple of medications. I take a very large handful of natural supplements. But the symptoms that I have, I started out, in the end, I think I reported 36 symptoms, anywhere from the nerve pain to the frequent urination. I couldn't control my body temperature anymore. I, one day at work, had burned my leg on the heater because I didn't feel that it was that hot. And yeah. So.
Will you ever take another vaccination again?
I don't know. I'll never do a COVID vaccine ever again. I'm pro-science, but I need the research to be there.
I mean, as you walk around the outside of this bus, you can see every single vaccination
Yes.
with every single age group on the side. So that should tell you something. These people are sitting here like you, telling us what happened to them. All of them were pro-vaccine, otherwise they wouldn't have taken the vaccine.
Yeah.
So when they shout anti-vaxxers at us, it doesn't wash. You're not an anti-vaxxer if your kids are all vaccinated. Just because they're injured doesn't make you an anti-vaxxer. But please do your research on the others, because I can tell you,
Absolutely.
all these dead babies here and teenagers, and there's the HPV Gardasil shot, these children. Who knew?
Yeah, I didn't.
No.
I didn't know. Yeah.
Because especially with the injuries you've got already,
Yeah.
you need to be careful.
Yeah.
You can't afford to be injured again.
Yeah. I opted out. Every year I get my flu vaccine, and the last couple of years I have opted out of doing it, just because I'm afraid of what to put in my body now. Yeah, even during my treatments, I did some wild treatments. When you are in that much pain, you will do anything. I had leaching done. I did bloodletting, the cupping.
Whatever, I know.
I did it all.
Desperate.
Yeah, H-bot. That really helped with the nerve pain. The H-bot did, but
Yeah, some people say good results from that.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Children's Health Defence does not give out medical advice, does not give out, I don't know, any
Yeah.
advice. We're just listening to people's stories, and people take what they can for it. Thank you for telling your story.
yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
Yes. So we do have a group here in Washington of injured people. We started CVIWA of Washington. It's COVID vaccine injured of Washington State, and we have met with Congress. We've met with our senators, local and in Washington D.C., trying to get the acknowledgement that there are COVID vaccine injured, letting them know our stories. We are working with them to get something on the books, because the VICP and the CICP just aren't. When I did an interview in May, there were 0 accepted cases for the CICP that had been approved for payment. And I personally know people that have lost their home, their jobs, their lives. They took their own lives because of it. And somebody needs to be held responsible for that.
They do.
So.
And I'm so glad that you are sitting here alive today
Yeah.
in front of us. That's happy news.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yeah.